It took a year. It wasn't easy. I finally got permission to go inside and climb the stairs to Ward 210, the so-called female violent ward, where I was placed when I was 17 years old.
When I first had this idea, I remember thinking that there's a part of me that is still up there, that never left. And if I can go back there, if I can go through what I have to go through to go back there, then I can rescue that part of myself. Okay. Which way?
Which way? This is the way.
Okay.
This is the long walk.
Yeah, it is the long walk.
For all these years.
This is amazing. This way?
Up the stairs to the right. This is much more lighted. Yes.
Whoa, we're here.
It's open for visitors.
I can't believe I'm here. Oh my God! This is where you came and you gave your clothes, you took off your clothes, and there were racks of patients' possessions, shelves, steel shelves, and then they issue you a dress. And I remember standing here and taking off my clothes. And then I put on, the state dress. And when you let go of your clothes like that, that's the punitive thing. The intention was probably not punitive at all. But it's like you're getting stripped of your little identity. That changed my life because when I let go of my clothes and I had no ability to reach anybody on the phone and I couldn't write and I couldn't call and I couldn't dress myself and I couldn't do anything, some very primitive part of me told me, surrender, just let go, because if you don't, you'll die. But I will never forget this room. It is really different in here than it once was. Those stalls over there didn't have doors because this was the violent ward. And the mirrors, when I was here, they were tin. And you only got to take a shower once a week. I remember the first morning I washed. I was so freaked out because I'd never done anything like this before. Washed in front of other people like this with a washcloth at a sink. And I was afraid of doing it wrong and of taking too long and making the other women angry at me. And my mother came to visit me after, I guess, a week before I got sent downstairs to a better ward. And she somehow manipulated it so that I got another washcloth. I had two. And that was like unbelievable wealth. So I had one to wash with and one to dry with.
Before Kings Park, I had been in a private hospital. Patients there were encouraged to grow and reach their full potential. I hated it. The pressure to perform was just too much. In less than a week, I cut my wrists. The very next day, my doctor had me committed to Kings Park. My mother pleaded with him to give me another chance, but he refused. Years later, I would tell people I was thrown out of a mental hospital for acting crazy.
And when you were here, this would have been open. There wouldn't have been, there would not have been partitions.
This is it, yeah. See, when I came up here, I remember being led up by the attendant, brought in here, and you gotta understand, every doorway you go through, there's a lock and there's a key. So she had this immense wad of keys. And she opened this door, and this was the last door. This was the final destination. And I didn't know if I'd ever get out. It's smaller than I remember. But there's the nurse's station. There were a couple of chairs, and the most powerful women sat in those chairs. And everybody else sat on the windowsill, slept on the windowsill, slept on the floor. The attendants wore white, and they'd stand like this against the walls in their skirts. And you'd forget they were there. This is what you did. I don't know if it was the first or second day that I was here. I was sitting, I think, over there, and I started to cry. You know, when the tears just sort of well up in your eyes. And this other young patient whom I hadn't seen before then, because most of the women were, you know, at least in their 30s, whom I thought of as really old. But this other young patient came to me, and she couldn't actually make eye contact, and she was very frightened, and she was shaking. But she said, "Do not cry. They'll hurt you." And I got it, and I stopped. And I didn't cry for 20 years. 25. And I can't believe I'm here.
I was there, in the day room of Ward 210. 43 years ago, that floor was covered with the bodies of women too drugged to move. The so-called female violent ward was the quietest place on earth.
I used to mop this floor. This is where I learned how to use a mop.
There we patients didn't count. When people came from outside, they averted their eyes, like it hurt to look at us. We had been thrown away. Stripped, fingerprinted, locked up, we were disposable. How had a hospital become so much like a prison? What crime had we as patients committed to inspire this kind of treatment? What was this place really? And who were the people who worked here? The people with the keys?